On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
I mean, listen,
the
one thing that Kay has brought to this show, and I will give her the utmost credit forever, is that this is something that you can research. When he used his example and then he gave the context about finance specifically, this is not something that can be disputed. You can literally go and find the information yourself. What are we talking? What does feelings have to do with the
about
fact?
my experience?
Hold on. But this ain't got nothing to do with your experience.
And
this
our
don't
opinions.
have anything to do with your experience.
And
your experience. I don't care. You're not gonna overtalk me, because I was just talking. I was making my point.
Go ahead.
I was very patient. But the point that I'm making is that we don't care about your experience because that was not the example by which he was making his point. He was making his point to illustrate that in the larger scheme of things, what we identify as culture has no relevance on what it is that we're trying to solve when it comes to getting the results that we want, especially for the people that we love. Something wrong with your audio, Kayla?
No, my audio is great. Actually, I double checked it.
Hey,
Logic, do you care to answer the question, ma'am?
I asked him a question. Did his son have test scores worthy of scholarship?
No,
because we're using an example, and now y'all want to go down rabbit holes with
you can ask me the
goalposts, and now it's another example, and now it's another example.
No, I've been using the same one. I said, if your son
why are we having this conversation?
Harvard,
does your child have? You talking about opportunity? Do they have the opportunity to go to Harvard?
Yes, I said if they had a scholarship to Harvard and a scholarship to Morehouse, as a mom that's looking out for the best interest of their child, what would you advise them to go?
I'll probably advise them to go to Harvard. Obviously, Harvard is an Ivy League school.
And that was my only point. The best option available. That's it.
It's not about okay, again, you're making it about the best option available, and I'm talking about the best option available for your child. Yeah, we could talk about this hypothetical, but can your child get into Harvard? If they can't, then what do we, you know what I'm saying? Just based on the percentage of people that are actually eligible, that Harvard is actually looking for, is so small.
Right. Okay, come back. I'm coming to you, Kay. Well, I forgot about you. Come back, Kay.
Here's the thing. You were saying something hypothetical. Right, you were saying something hypothetical, but then she was getting more specific, talking about your son, since you said you brought it up, your family, his mom talking about subpar schools. And we're like, okay, when you say subpar, it's kind of degrading. When you're talking about an HBCU, it's subpar. So I don't like the terminology. However, does your son make the grades to get into an Ivy League school? That was the question specifically for you.
It doesn't matter. If he
here's an
example with the point I made.
Now y'all are missing his point.
We're not missing the point. It's two questions.
Hold on, y'all. One at a time, y'all.
It's two questions.
But what is that?
And now we're asking a whole different question to make a whole nother point.
Yes. That's
exactly what's happening. The example I used earlier when I used my son as an example is I was saying that he wants to go to school for finance. Once he get that opportunity, we would look at the list and we would pick the best school available. We would not pick it based off a Black experience. That would not be one of the criteria for us picking that school. We would pick the best school available.
Correct.
That's why I use the Harvard and Morehouse analogy, saying that, hey, would you pick Morehouse when you know he got an option for a better school?
Okay. Well, you didn't say that at the beginning.
I said it a gazillion times.
He said it. He said it a couple of times.
Thank you, Island. Let me talk to Mr. Logic. So, Ms. Logic, what we heard was this, and Kayla, tell me if I'm wrong. He was like, she wants him to have a Black experience, and you said, well, I don't care about him going to a subpar school. And two things can happen at the same time.
Yes.
One of those top 10 schools in finance can also be an HBCU. So he can still have a Black experience and go to an amazing school. That's the point that I believe we were trying to make.
And you can also go to a white school and it be a subpar school.
Why is it so important?
There are HBCUs that are better than
because you know me, I just like to cut through the bullshit.
You can go to a very white school and it can be subpar education. So
now I'm gonna give you another real life experience. So I'm gonna knock this upside the head, right?
Don't do it, Logic.
Yes, I'm fin to. I was in Army ROT instructor for University of North Carolina, and for a North Carolina A&T, right? It was no comparing the two. Half of my students that was in ROTC as freshmen, before they made it to their junior year, they got pregnant. So now if you want to get into the real, we can get into the real. And then the thing about this is that if you go to UNC, it's just that they just had a different level of responsibility because of they tribe held them to a different standard than North Carolina A&T. It was no tribe. So not just pregnancy rate, the party, it was, I don't understand how these kids did it, but they party. And look, I'm gonna give you another example. They party and they was having orgies, unprotected sex on both ends. And you know, only one end came out with kids. So like I said, that black experience got a lot of daggers to come with it. And I don't want my son in it. It is a subpar environment.
Well, it definitely is not, being that I graduated from an HBCU and I didn't get pregnant and I wasn't in orgies and I don't know anyone that was in orgies in an HBCU. So it's not subpar. Matter of fact, the men that I know, the women that I know that are doctors and lawyers also graduated from an HBCU. As a matter of fact, the majority of black people, the majority of doctors come out of HBCUs that are black. The majority of lawyers, black, come from HBCUs. So HBCUs are actually amazing for black people that go because they are the ones that are pushing out doctors, lawyers.
But are y'all discounting what his experience, what he just said?
But that's his experience. That's not my experience. So we
hold
can
on.
fight
Hold on.
on
You didn't even hear the question. You didn't even hear the question. Okay. Are y'all discounting his experience just because y'all went to HBCUs? Because two things could be true at the same time.
No, you're absolutely right. No, we're not. We're just giving our experience as well.
I'm just pushing back on the subpar. I'm not going to accept that.
That's but see, y'all getting. It seems like y'all getting.
It can be. He could do whatever he want with his son. But what I'm not going to do is accept you saying that HBCUs are subpar. I'm not going to.
It's not about accepting. But do you understand what he's saying?
I mean, listen. The one thing that Kay has brought to this show, and I will give her the utmost credit forever, is that this is something that you can research. When he used his example and then he gave the context about finance specifically, this is not something that can be disputed. You can literally go and find the information yourself. What are we talking? What does feelings have to do with the
about
fact?
my experience?
Hold on. But this ain't got nothing to do with your experience.
And
this don't have anything to do with your experience.
And
your experience. I don't care. You're not gonna overtalk me, because I was just talking. I was making my point. I was very patient. But the point that I'm making is that we don't care about your experience because that was not the example by which he was making his point. He was making his point to illustrate that in the larger scheme of things, what we identify as culture has no relevance on what it is that we're trying to solve when it comes to getting the results that we want, especially for the people that we love.